Hi guys, my name is Isabella Greene. Welcome to my channel. I haven't done any of visions and dreams stories for you in a while, and now it's just this time where people are getting together and sharing stories, this kind of casual holiday season time, and I feel like sharing this story with you that I personally really like. And I got my casual outfit here for you, the Team Light hoodie that you can get at the Team Light website, and I will put that in the description down here for you. So today I want to tell you about dog people, or specifically the canine humanoid person or being, who is a really good close friend of mine. And I have summoned him back around 2016, I think. That was the time when I was kind of transitioning the dragons out of my experience, and I felt like I wanted a different kind of guardian. And just that idea came to mind. And then I had an experience during the meditation where that type of being was shown to me, but kind of vaguely, I just saw like a silhouette of like a dog-like person, so the physical body being of the human form, and then the head being of the canine type. And as that was shown to me, I started getting really curious, like, what's up? What's up with that? And I started calling that presence in. And at that time, I was also doing very extensive work with my inner child. And that girl that exists on a different timeline, the girl that I used to be, told me in one of my interactions or interviewing the inner child process that I did back then, she kind of remembered or made me remember that the dog beings have been around and that we are connected to them, or meaning we is me and her as myself, since childhood. And so I said, hey, that should be an easy one. So I started calling in that canine humanoid presence. And of course, I had in mind what I know is Anubis, right? That's our most obvious depiction of that kind of being. What showed up was a little bit different, and I'm going to tell you about it now. So the person or the guy, the being that showed up, was probably about 8 feet tall, because I'm too bad when I'm standing up next to him, I'm just below his chest probably. So, and I'm 5'9" to 6 feet. So, no, not to 6 feet, 5'9", what am I saying? So I'm up to his chest here, a little bit below actually. So I'm thinking he's about 8 feet tall. He has a really interesting skin texture, which is not like a dog because it doesn't have the hair. It's got a really kind of solid type of skin, which is completely black, like completely black. Not black as we know here as a human, but as a black dog color, but it's skin color. And it is really thick. Like, he doesn't get scratched very easily. And it seems like when he's running like through the habitat, which is very much like a dense forest environment or jungle-like environment, so they don't get scratches. And it seems like the skin is actually kind of like bulletproof. I don't really know if there is such a thing as bulletproof skin, but it's a very thick yet kind of soft type of covering on the body. So as our human skin is not very strong, theirs is very strong, and they're strong warriors, and they do have a lot of fights and all kinds of stuff. They are involved in all kinds of battle kind of activity, and very often it's just to protect their habitat or protect their territory from invaders. And they also assist beings like myself in different missions where etheric form is involved. And I've learned all that later. At the beginning, when that being just first showed up, so here's what happened. I started calling it in my meditations and seeing just the glimpses. And then in one night or morning, more like, because I did my meditations around 3:30 to 4 a.m. and then I sleep for a little bit. And there's that period in between where I'm not fully awake, not fully asleep, and not meditating anymore. So I just finished with the meditation. I'm kind of falling asleep, but I'm not yet asleep. You know, that state or brain state, I guess that's what it's called, when you are not fully present in either reality. And so there, all of a sudden, that being was in my room. And I'm fully aware that it's right next to me because my bed is moving. It literally like moved the bed as if someone like was leaning, someone big and heavy leaning on the bed. And I'm kind of nervous at that moment, but not terribly, because it's almost like when you're falling asleep, you're not fully, concerned about anything. And then that started leaking my face. And I'm on my side, and I literally feel a really big tongue or like really like strong breath on the side of my face. It was on the right side of my face. And, and that was, but on one hand, it was pretty wild, but on the other hand, it was very comforting. It was like very like, when your dog jumps on the bed and like starts licking you in the morning, that kind of thing. Although a very different feeling than just the dog doing that. The dog that here's like this being, which in my inner gaze I can see and I can feel the size of that. And I got to the point that I was like, I'm not comfortable, and it just like went away. And when it went away, I woke up. I literally like sat up. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And the side of my face was wet. And I did that, and it was just that like foam, when the dogs, when they lick you, it's just like that kind of saliva type of thing. You're like, oh my God, that's on my face. So that really actually happened just now. So that was the first introduction. And after that, I started calling in that being into my meditations. But I was like, you know what, please don't show up in my room and lick my face, because I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. It's too weird. Okay, so he started coming into my visions in meditation because I was specifically focused on him, and I felt it was such a heart opening for me and such a heartfelt connection. It was just so much fun. And so he would literally scoop me out of my body. I would start the meditation, and then I would just see him coming in and take me out of my body and show me things. And he was able to kind of transform the human state into the state, my human state, into the state that I could travel dimensions with him. Like he could like show me stuff. Like he took me to where they live, to that type of habitat. And like I said, I observed that it's a forest-like environment, but it's off-planet. It's definitely not on this planet. Although he did share that they had settlements on Earth before, but now they're gone. And then of course, I have to Google it. And so when I Googled it, there was some mystical or some myths from before, from the ancient tribes, saying that there were dog people on Earth. So how fun was that? And then I started employing him or inviting him into my work. And at this time, so, whenever I want to hang out with him and spend some time in that connection, it's so pure and it's so like a dog. when it's that unconditional connection of love, there's that loyalty, there's that strength. He's of massive stature, so you feel safe next to that being, and in any physical and non-physical form. And then he started getting involved, though I started calling him, when I started doing entity work and dealing with all kinds of spirits, I figured I could use any member of the team and all members of my team to assist to find habitats for the spirits that I work with. And so recently I had an experience where we actually have a lot of that going on around like South America and Africa and Mexico, where people invoke or still use shamanic practices that invoke animal spirits. And very often those animal spirits are stuck in human bodies, and I find that quite a bit. And I've seen quite a few of the like dog-like spirits or wolf-like spirits that are kind of roaming around human beings' energy fields, and they want to get out, but they can't. And so I help to transition them, and to transition them, I call him in, and I ask him if he would take these spirits, and he takes other spirits that he finds appropriate to transition into, let's say, the vegetation on their planet, or to the beaches on their planet. And there are all kinds of spirits, but some spirits he refuses, and he says, no, this belongs to Earth, and this cannot be upgraded at this time, so you transition it on with an Earth plane. I'm like, okay. So we actually interact during my sessions. And recently I had that experience where a person had a dog-like spirit stuck in her energy field, and as I pulled it out, I called in my canine humanoid friend. I have a name, but I'm not going to say it because the name seals the contract, seals the bond, and it's not to be pronounced except between you two. So I asked him, I said, what do you want to do with this? It's a non-physical, it's a soul of some sort, a non-physical canine type spirit. And he said, oh, I'll take it. It will incarnate into our pets, into one of our dogs. And so I nearly fell over at that point. I said, hey, dude, wait a second. Are you with the human body and canine head, you have like dogs actually? And he said, yeah, we have pets who are full dogs, like full-on dogs, same like humans do. Except he showed me at that moment, I got a vision of what kind of dogs, and these are big dogs. Like for the human beings standing next to that dog, the back level will be probably to my shoulder. That's how big those dogs are, and they are of the type that you could call like a German Shepherd, a wolf-like. They have really thick, patchy gray hair, like really thick hair, which kind of comes in like almost like dreadlocks, right? But softer than that. But they're in patches, and they work or they live with these beings on their planet as pets. And he said, oh, we can incarnate that soul into one of our pets. So this is how I found out that they actually have pets too. Isn't that fascinating? And then I was talking to someone who interacts with the same types of beings. One of my friends that I get to actually discuss this guy with, or this canine race with, and he said that he experienced a different vision, or he's experiencing different kind of the same beings, which are even taller. He said like 26 feet tall and covered in hair, upright standing also, and kind of the kind of spirit or the kind of being that everything is scared of. So when that being shows up, everything runs, kind of thing. And I wanted to check with my guy. I wanted to ask him what it is, because I've heard through my work, I've heard like the avians have like the godlike or the more advanced levels and the less advanced levels of their evolutionary flow. And so I called in my guy and I said, hey, do you want to show me where the 26 feet tall live, and just tell me about them. And I asked him, I said, are they the gods to you? Or are they more advanced? He said, no. He said they're just a different kind. And then instantly he kind of scooped me. I'm still in meditation. I do all of this in meditation. So he picked me up, and all of a sudden I'm on this planet, which is more like a desolate planet with a lot of cave formations, or the underground formations. And he says they live underground. They live in these cave formations. And he brings me right to the entrance of that. And like, he has fur around his head. But not on his body, around his head, like a little bit on his tail, a little bit on his paws, and it's just like kind of like softer stuff. And that like all got up, like his hair literally, like his head got like this big because the hair like stood up on his head where I could see it. And he said, I'm not going in there. If you want to go in and meet these beings, I'll pick you up here when you're done. And he said, I'm not going to interact with this type of canines, because he said it's not going to end up well for me. And knowing how powerful and brave he is, I was like, yeah, you know, maybe I'm not going to do that either. And I got a very interesting sensation from that. As I kind of like tuned in into the cave, I kind of like sent my etheric gaze or etheric filler, you know, into the cave. I got the feeling like, yeah, you know, like more primitive, more instinctual, more aggressive, more like if you take a present-day human and you take a Denisovan, for example, between the human species, which is like a giant size, strong and powerful, but not necessarily civilized yet, let's just say that. So I got that feeling too. I was like, oh, I kind of feel like my hair is standing up on the back of my neck here, so let's get out of here. So we got out from there, but I got my answers, and I shared that with my friend. He was quite curious about the whole thing. And then there was another episode which I mentioned in a different video about visions and dreams, when the Lyran came in, that leopard type with green eyes, and that was such an interesting energy. I was super drawn to that. But my canine showed up and just shouldered him right out. And so I told about that experience in my previous video. I'm going to put it in the description here. So if you want to hear that story, it's right there, because it's a little bit more about my friend here that I interact with. One time we had a really interesting occurrence when I did the work, because other people are familiar with these types of beings, and they are associating or connected with these beings, the canine humanoids. They're known to ancient tribes and cultures, and they apparently, well, we have one in Egypt, which is like all over the walls and stuff, and they have different functions with humanity, and they have been around here. And so the story that I'm referring to was when I was doing a session once, and that being came in to a different type of being came in as a part of the other person's stream. I was sitting, we were doing the session on Skype, and I had a white computer in front of me, which was completely clear and white. And then we interacted with that species, and I always have my guy kind of stand there when I interact with these kind of species, because you never know. He's kind of watching out for me there, which is great, you know. dimensional diplomacy of sorts, or dimensional guardianship of sorts. When I was done with the session and we released all this, the connection with these beings, I looked at my computer and there was a black hair, like a dog, a black hair on my keyboard, which was not there when we started the session. And I have never had a dog in this house, or a black dog, or anywhere where I could have picked up the black hair. It just fell out of nowhere in the middle of my healing room. So I put it in a specific place, and I told the client about it, and I actually taped it to a page. And as I looked a little while ago. That hair is gone. There's just a piece of tape there. So that is quite interesting as well. So all these kind of things are happening. We're way bigger, and the universe and the experiences the humans can have are way vaster than what we know. And I hope that these stories are not only entertaining for you, but also exciting enough for you to go ahead and start developing your own abilities so you can interact with all kinds of other beings, as I do too, because I have many different types of beings on my stream. And perhaps I'll tell you more about that too at some point. Thank you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't always tell the stories. I do a lot of material here. I bring a lot of material that's helpful for the ascension of the people. I also bring material from the sessions that I do that covers a lot of nuances of the human experience, a lot of guidance from the higher realms as well. So do check me out here, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care now. Thank you. Namaste.